Hi, you're listening to When Isabel Met Aviva, a podcast about rom-coms, female-driven screenwriting, and how to break into the entertainment industry. I'm Isabel.
And I'm Aviva.
And thanks for listening to our podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Isabel, what's been going on?
Well, I guess I'll just retell what I told Aviva because I went on this whole tangent and then I realized we weren't recording and I should have told her this while we were recording. But I was listening this morning to one of my favorite podcasts is Brooke and Connor, if anyone knows. But they released their new episode yesterday and it was with Dylan Efron. So I was catching Aviva up on like the new trend now that everyone is into Dylan and not into Zach.
I had no idea.
I mean, I feel like people are still into Zach. I think it's just that there's like a shift happening culturally where everybody's like, Dylan is like the one now. So.
Yeah. And I was just saying to Isabel before we recorded, like, I wonder if that's hard to like have a brother and then everyone like prefers, but you said he's chill with it, right?
That's what I love about him. He's like, I mean, I honestly, like, to be honest, I didn't know he existed until I wrote my screenplay about Zach and I like just like went into the wormhole of like his life. And I started following him online because I like that he's like a athletic bro-y dude that's just like positive and happy. But I don't think him or Zach like care at all is like the vibe I get, which I think is they're just kind of like whatever. But what I was telling Aviva is that it gave me hope that like someday when we are sitting down with Zach on our rom-com Heartthrob episode, that I feel better about someday being able to tell him about the script I wrote about him, because Brooke has like her, I guess like her TikTok and like her like AIM screen name and her email and everything was Lady Efron. And so she felt like she had to tell Dylan like, okay, so, I don't know if you know this, but like everyone on the internet calls me Lady Efron because I wanted to be Zach's wife. And
funny.
Dylan like reacted. He was like super chill about it. He thought it was funny and he was like, that's cool. Like, welcome to the family.
That's amazing.
So that's what I'm going to manifest now for when we interview Zach someday, that he's just going to be like, wow, cool. Yeah. Like, I'll totally do your movie.
Definitely. Yeah. You gave a little context, but like for anyone who hasn't listened to us from the beginning, Isabel and I bonded over, like, that's how we met, was doing a feedback exchange of our scripts. And Isabel wrote like a fan fiction rom-com about Zach that I am still obsessed with, and so that's like why we reference Zac Efron like throughout the season. If you're like, why are they still talking about him?
It is, now that we're in our 4th season, we should probably do an update of like, we're not just like obsessed with Zac Efron. There's like a real reason.
There's a reason. And this kind of segues, like, I was just updating our website if everybody wants to go check it out.
Yeah, it looks so good.
www.whenisabelmetaviva.com. We just hadn't updated it in a long time, and this is the first time I've really done Squarespace stuff, but anyway, there's references to Zach as well. Maybe we should have a whole tab.
Wait, what are the references to Zach? We just really, I feel like if we ever like, well, when, not if, I'm going to stop taking if. I feel like that's key to manifestation.
Yes, I agree.
When we meet Zach, I feel that it's going to be really hard to not sound like we're just like super obsessed with him, because it's like, oh, I wrote a script about you. Oh, here's my website. There's a whole page dedicated to you. What?
Or he'll be flattered. I'm not sure. I don't know. I was thinking, and if anybody has feedback for our website, like I feel more creative energy than this week, and I want to update it more often. What was I? It'd be interesting or cool maybe to like share some of our writing through the website, or like, I don't know, the first page of your script maybe, or I don't know. Some exclusive content on there might be fun. So, and a newsletter, I think, that would just take some work, but I think that'd be fun because I forgot that we even had people signing up on the website.
I know. Yeah. When you sent me to go look at it, I looked at it and then the thing popped up and I was like, oh yeah,
I forgot I didn't even know there was a pop-up. Has that been there the whole time?
Yeah.
It was cute. So like 8 people like signed up for our newsletter,
I mean,
including us. So we're like 10 total with us.
Wow. I apologize publicly to those 8 people who signed up to our newsletter. We are so sorry we forgot about you.
No idea.
We totally forgot that we set up a newsletter.
We could like put exclusive writing in there, or like, I don't know, just like recommendations or something if we can get our act together.
I do like the idea of like us having like some kind of feedback exchange thing, or like, you know, like putting our scripts on there for people who want to like take a look at like the first 10 pages or something, right? But then also like it would be fun to have like a you know how there's like that script club and stuff, but to do like something maybe monthly where it was like, but it's only about rom-coms, you know, like keep
That'd
it to
so
the rom-com trend.
Yeah, I definitely, I do have like dreams about, like doing more collaborative stuff with rom-com fans that listen to this. And I would love that.
I like that idea.
But we should probably we need to have maybe an update episode with just us soon. I feel like there's some other stuff
I
to
know.
discuss.
I do feel like we have more stuff to talk about, right?
We definitely do. But everybody check out the website. I think it's really cute. Like Isabel designed it a long time ago, but it's super cute right now. It's always been cute.
Really cute. Yeah, I know. I think you're right. I think it'd be fun to have like blog posts and a newsletter and stuff.
We could even like try to do. We could have like guest writers too if we don't want to do it all. Like you know, maybe
we should start with. Well, I feel like Erin's like a legit journalist. She doesn't have time to write a little blog for us.
But I don't know. Anyone listening who's interested, like reach out if you have any ideas. It was really special. Like on our homepage now, we have like posters of some projects of guests we've interviewed, and that is super cute to look at. And then I added this resources page that we're still going to add to, but like I was thinking Isabel and I could like share some of our favorite like screenwriting resources for newbies or just people who want more resources.
I just had a good idea for the blog that I would actually be into. Would be if we allowed it to be a little bit more kind of stream of consciousness like in the way that Exanga was. Like if we used it as a little like blog for our like writing thoughts, to be like, oh, I'm thinking about this project, and like, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, like a confessional kind of about what we're like journaling about what we're working on. Yeah,
just like journaling our like little writing brain thoughts, where we're like, you know, when you're in a writer's block and it's you're kind of struggling with that, and just like, I don't know, maybe we should make maybe we should each have our own little blog page, so that there could be like, this is how your brain works and this is how my brain works.
This brings me back, you know what? This reminds me of a little bit Live Journal. Like I
that's what I'm thinking of.
Live Journal, and I have it printed out somewhere in the garage. Like I don't have the blog, but I had a blog with my friend, and we'd like write letters to each other like back and forth.
Yeah, that's kind of what I want, is that like, it's like Exanga, MySpace, Live Journal vibe. Like,
okay,
I'm really
let's discuss. Right, I'm down. I like the like cat. Like we don't have to be super formal about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't want to write like, you know, a very professional thing that has to like, I don't know, be something that would be published in Teen Vogue, you know what I mean? Like I want to.
That was such a cool.
I want magazine. More blogger vibes, like mid 2000s. I feel like mid 2000s vibe is our vibe, so I feel like we should stick to that trend of like Live Journal Exanga updates.
We could even like, we have to wrap this up in a second because actually one of our guests is already in the waiting room.
Okay.
But what was I gonna say? It'd be cute also, to have this could be in the newsletter or the blog post, but like favorites of the month that like are related to rom-com and writing and stuff. I don't know. We'll talk about it, but let's transition to today we're interviewing 2 female filmmakers. So is this our second episode with 2 people? Like 2 guests? I think so.
Yeah.
We got to interview Elizabeth Hackett and Hilary Gallinoy a couple seasons ago, and they wrote Falling in Love and all these Netflix rom-coms. But today we are interviewing Heather and Debra. Should I say their last names? Heather Pilder Olson and Debra Pralle. And they are 2 filmmakers I know from the fellowship that I did, called like the Green Room. I did it last year. And we all like wrote scripts at the same time and like gave one another feedback. And Debra and Heather went to Italy, I believe in the summer of 2023, and they made a pilot in Italy that we both watched. Yeah. So Isabel, you watched it as well. So Heather wrote and produced it, and Debra directed, and she might have produced it as well. They were all like very involved, and they all went to Italy to film this project. So
awesome. Yeah, I want to know how that happened.
Yeah. So I know, how do you film in a different country? That's like next level overwhelming sounding, but beautiful.
I like this trend of like just our last episode being about how to make a pilot, and now this one is like how to make a pilot in Italy.
Next level.
Yeah. How to take it international.
Right? Yeah, no, I love that. This season is very much about I guess like local filmmaking. That seems to kind of be the trend. So yeah, I'm excited to chat with them about how this project came to fruition. So
yeah. All right. Well, let's bring them in the chat. Thank you both so much for being here today. It's really great to virtually meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, yeah, great to meet you guys too. Well, to meet you, Isabel, and to
yeah.
All right, yeah, I was gonna say, can you remind me how you guys all met? And I think Aviva, you were saying you met through the fellowship.
Yeah.
We have it's still ongoing, a screenwriting fellowship called the Green Room that I used to co-lead until this year. I've turned over the reins to some new folks. But Debra was in it a couple of times, and Aviva was in it. It's usually about 10 to 12 screenwriters that we ask to, that we select from a pool of applicants to do a year-long fellowship where you develop an idea into a completed script. So it's kind of evolved since it began in 2019. And it's become a pretty cool thing. And there's the groups of people that are chosen, I feel like, keep getting stronger and stronger. And so that's how we all connected initially. Yeah.
Awesome. That's so
cool. And so Isabel and I have seen the pilot now.
Oh,
and
thanks for letting us watch that. I always feel like really cool when I have like a Vimeo link with a password.
You're like, I'm special.
I know, I'm like, wow, other people don't have access to this.
Keeps that under lock and key. So yeah, she does.
Yeah, no, that was really fun to watch, and it was really cool to I don't know, just like it looks really good. Like was like really cool to see like how like high quality it was, and it was beautiful. And I'm just kind of curious to know, I guess I would actually love to first know like how you two started working together and like that kind of journey and like.
Yeah, well, Debra and I think we've known each other now for, I don't know, 12 years, maybe longer.
And sort of in the writers and film community.
Yeah. And so we met initially at a writing and acting workshop quite a while back.
Oh my gosh, and then, that's right. Way long ago. Yeah.
And then, would run into each other at different events. And then Debra was in the Green Room. And that's where I started talking about the idea for Abroad. We had a lot of sessions of the Green Room where we were practicing pitching, and I think I pitched it one time.
I know you did. Take over. Because, well, the thing is, I kept running into Heather, and Heather kept coming up with these great titles and show ideas and stuff. And I when we met the first time, your TV show idea, a show called Crack the Whip, about a woman who has to go back and she starts basically a dominatrix career, right?
Oh, okay.
And I was like, that's interesting, because
I love that title too. So you're right, I agree.
If
I
you
love
need a title, Heather is like a title whisperer, like and just come up with the best titles. But anyway, so then we were in the Green Room, and it was the day when we had to pitch ideas. Like, we have to have 5 ideas, and one of them was, I got a show. It's a travel show. It's about the making of a travel show. It's called Abroad. And I was like, and I think I typed in the comments, I don't know what this is or if you've done it yet, but whatever you do it, I really want to do it. And then it happened. And then she wrote it, and then she reached out to ask me to direct it and stuff. So that's how it happened.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And was it always set originally in Italy? And did you have that dream to film it not in America?
Yeah, when I first started thinking about it, I didn't necessarily know that Italy was going to be the place, but I also had for a long time had this idea of wouldn't it be amazing if we could make something in Italy? And the woman who plays the lead, who plays the travel host, Angela DeMarco, who's the broad in Abroad, and I had talked years ago about just the idea of going to Italy someday and shooting something, and we didn't know what that thing was going to be. And then these two ideas sort of coalesced. And when I was looking at, what would it take to get a small cast and crew together and actually take everybody to Italy, and I never thought it was a crazy idea. I knew that when I told other people, they were going to say, "What are you doing? You're nuts, and that's going to be too expensive." But the truth is, it's actually quite a bit less expensive to do a lot of things in Italy than it is here, especially compared to Seattle. So let's say housing, feeding people, the cost of renting gear. There's a lot of things that actually are less money. And so if we were to look at the numbers, the cost of doing what we did here would be either the same or maybe more. And so it wasn't that nuts to take everybody there and do it. And it also, we wanted, once we decided on Italy, we wanted that place to be kind of a character in the show, because you can't fake how it looks. You can't, it's very distinct, and we wanted that to be part of the whole thing. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And most people will go to Italy for free. I mean, and pay me $10,000. Like, no, I think I'll just take the trip to Italy and the opportunity. So yeah, it worked out great. And I think, if you're going to make a show about the making of a travel show, might as well go for it.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely stunning. It made me want to go to Italy.
Yeah.
Usual.
It's setting for so many romantic comedies too. I mean, there is something about that country that is just, sensual and beautiful, and it's kind of relaxing, and it's just all the pleasure points, the food, the wine, the locations, the history. It's just, it is a character.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite parts in the pilot, was when she was like having the little daydream when the DP like looked at her, and then it was just like cut to.
Yeah. I love
what
fantasy.
I think is going to happen. Yeah, I know. I love the little fantasy.
I love that too.
It's so fun.
And they're actually married, right, in real life.
Yes.
So
Oh, really?
with that. So
Yes.
I believe the chemistry.
Yeah. Angela was like, I mean, you don't have to cast my husband as the love interest, but and they're both incredible actors, so it's sort of a no-brainer. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
So did you cast people was everyone in Seattle and then you guys all went together, or?
In terms of the cast, the actors, many came from Seattle, and Debra was kind of in charge of this, which worked out so well. We did a full-on casting call for most of the roles. So we, went through the agents here, and a couple of our actors, who had Seattle agents, actually lived in other cities, but they still were connected. Like Aaron, who plays the director, Archie, lives in Tucson, but he still has a Seattle agent. So he came to us through his agent. A few people were already, I wanted them in the roles, Angela, David, and Andy, who plays the priest.
Yeah.
Those were sort of all predetermined because we had talked to all of them, and I felt like those were the right people for those particular roles. But the other people auditioned.
Yeah.
And then the two Italian actors, Debra can tell you more about how we got them.
Yeah, I felt kind of bad. I was like, gosh, the only roles that we're casting with real Italians are playing prostitutes. But so this was my first foray into international casting. So I joined, I can't remember what it was. I still get emails from them, but I basically signed up on this thing, and we gave them all the information for the production and what we were looking for. And it's just like casting networks or casting Frontier, which is, American casting. And I just put it out there. And I mean, I probably had 40 women submit for that role, and probably the same amount of guys. It was a hard decision. And here's the thing too, this is such a stereotype, but I just have to say it again in my very limited experience. Every woman who auditioned for that part was drop dead freaking gorgeous. And I mean, like, I could not even believe it. And so many of them, they just, anyway, there's a reason there's a stereotype for the busty, gorgeous Italian woman, because they are out there everywhere. And so there were times when I would be watching the self tapes, and then my husband would like kind of pop his nose. I'm like, get out of here! Don't look at these women are too beautiful. But the guys not so much. There were some pretty guys, but there were some guys that thought they were very pretty. But anyway, they were wonderful. The actors were great. So we did a self-tape and then auditioned them in person over Zoom, and they were absolutely wonderful. The first day they were like down for anything. They were great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can we take it back more to the beginning of when you decided to collaborate, and then like what were the next steps? So you had each other, and then what did you do after that? Because Isabel and I are always interested in, how to get into producing. Debra, and I guess Heather knows too, that I would love to like dip my toes in that eventually, but it's very intimidating. So what did you do after that?
Yeah, well, Angela, she was already on board, and we knew she was going to be the lead, and she also wanted to be a producer, and she's got quite a bit of experience producing also. So that was super helpful. And then I had people in mind that I had already been in touch with also for the crew. So our DP, who's out of LA, was someone that I met at the Austin Film Festival years ago. Our sound person, somebody I knew for 20 some years, because he went to film school with my first husband, and he's also in LA and like super amazing at what he does. So I pulled them in, and I said, we have a small budget. This is what we're doing. It's going to be a 2-week shoot. We're going to Italy. We got, the place figured out where we're going to stay. And I had stayed at that villa before, so I was familiar with that area. I said, so if I cover the cost of flying you to Italy and housing you and feeding you for 2 weeks, will you do this without me paying you on top of that? And everyone said, sure. I mean, I paid a few people a little bit, but no one, anywhere near what they normally would make. We paid our editor, we paid our DP a small amount. We paid our makeup artist to cover the cost of her makeup kit. And that's basically it. Everyone else did the work for the benefit of being in Italy. And, we also spent a good 6 months beforehand really getting everything organized in pre-production, the budget, the schedule, everyone's travel, everything that we would need, so that when we got there, because a lot of the locations where we would be filming, no one had seen until we arrived.
Well, pictures, but well, Heather was doing all that. For me as a director, like step one was getting the script into the shape that we knew we wanted it to be, so we really had a complete story. So Heather was very gracious about going back and, bouncing ideas and finishing, just kind of finishing things out. So we felt like when we got there, we had enough things that worked. So for me, it was script, getting my first AD lined up, because that's super critical for me as a director, so that I can focus on the story, not all the logistics. And we worked with Kira, who I've worked with before as a first AD, and she's awesome. So I mean, like when you find a good first AD, boy, hold them close, do everything. And then casting and then finding locations was really challenging from here. But we had a boots on the ground in Italy with an young Italian filmmaker who wanted to help us out, that Heather had met. And he was great with helping us navigate how to secure locations and all that.
Yeah, that's the biggest piece of advice that I would give. I actually spoke to someone recently who's about to shoot a movie in Greece. She's like, how did you guys do this? And I can't get anyone to call me back. And I don't, I said, well, do you have a production coordinator who lives there? Because you need that. You need that for your own sanity, and you need that because people that you're dealing with for renting stuff and locations and all that will respond very differently to someone who lives there versus us who they
It
don't
speaks
know.
their language. I mean, there was
Exactly.
times where we were just like,
Yes.
we can't talk to anybody. We don't know.
Yes, because there were people that we worked with that didn't speak English or not much at all, and so Niccolo was super helpful there, and he also did a ton of translating for people, and he also, I mean, he had enough. He's a filmmaker himself, so he had enough experience knowing what we needed and how to get it and all of that stuff. And I actually met him. It's just, all these things. Like, I think once you decide to do something, the universe will hand you a lot of favors and a lot of things if you're paying attention. So I was on Facebook, and there's a group on Facebook called The Inside Pitch that's led by Christopher Lockhart, and it's mostly for screenwriters. And this was January before we shot. I think it was the new year, and there's a day where he puts a thread out there that says, introduce yourself and talk about what you want to make this year. And so I put my post up, and then I saw this post from Niccolo. My name's Niccolo. I'm a young filmmaker. Just finished film school. I live near Venice. If you're shooting in Italy, let me know. And I was like, can I call you right now? Like, I right away.
How is it there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, sure. And we talked, and he was open to doing this. And he was amazing.
We wouldn't have pulled it off without him.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have pulled off all the locations that we managed to get into, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
without paying for any of them.
Right.
Wow, that's awesome.
Right. Yeah, we didn't have to pay for any locations, which is kind of a miracle. I mean, that would not,
except for where we stayed. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. But I think, we were shooting mostly in pretty small towns in Tuscany. Everything was very centrally located. If we had been shooting in Rome or Florence or, I'm sure that would not have been the case, but everybody was just very welcoming to us and very helpful. And we did talk to, the city of Arezzo, because we were going to shoot in their public square, just to let them know what we were doing. We didn't have to get any special permits, but we just needed to let them know dates and times, and things like that. So,
sometimes the advice can be, you don't have to go to Rome to get Italy. You don't have to go to the capitals of countries to get the flavor. And I think us going small was great. Yeah. A smaller church. And we were looking at great big churches to shoot in.
Yes.
And we just were like, this is going to be impossible because there's so many people that tour.
Yeah.
How are we can't control that environment. And we just found this lovely little church. We got to shoot in there for 2 days. And then we found a winery. So instead of trying to do a big restaurant scene, which we were going to do, we were like, why don't we do a winery? Nobody will be there, So those kinds of things just have to be agile,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about the church and if you how you the scenes where I guess is that shot in the church or at the end where there's kind of the trippy dream
that was
happening?
A different church. So we had a small church that we shot the opening scene in and the confession. The confession scene later, that was in that church in a confession booth. Yay. Yep. And then, the other one was a deconsecrated church in Arezzo. That was where we did the nightmare. And that was, again, that was one of those things where I saw pictures, but we literally walked into this giant empty cathedral and we just went, all right, we know kind of what we're shooting, but and not a lot of lights. We're not coming in with big trucks. We've got a few lights and a few things. So we had to isolate areas really quickly. It was cold. We had strobe lights running that were making people sick. And when they said you will shoot until 6 o'clock, they meant 5:59. And they literally turned the lights out on us. Yeah. We had the camera finally turned toward the door to shoot some people doing something, coming into lights out. Yeah. Yep. And we're like, guess we're done. So now again, they let us in there for free. And so we took advantage.
Cool.
That's amazing.
I'm also curious about, the approach of kind of making the pilot, and then I assume you're going to shop it around or show it to people. How does that work? We just spoke to last week's episode was also with a filmmaker who kind of did the same thing where it's kind of proof of concept pilot and then she's hoping someone will pick it up. So what is the plan for that?
Well, we we screened in, I think, 16 different festivals. So we sent it out to festivals, and mainly we were looking at festivals that have pilot categories, because it's not a short film, it's a different thing. And so where we submitted it, where it was screening with other pilots, that's where I feel like it got really good showcase. And we did win a couple best pilot awards in different festivals. And then we also, we had some meetings and some phone calls with different producers and production companies. And just recently, this, I guess about a month ago now, I got connected with a production company called Sane Media that's based in North Carolina. And they were really interested in the pilot. And so I sent it to them along with, we have a pitch deck and a story Bible, all of our cast and crew information, and they really liked it. And so they have since sent it out to Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Roku TV, and we're waiting to hear what happens, that's what we wanted. That was like the big hope
that's amazing.
We would eventually get to. So it's in the hands of the right people. And we just have to see if someone likes it. So, if ideally the big pie in the sky dream would be that they love it so much that they'd want to keep our same cast and crew involved. More realistically, they probably would, if they love the concept, they would buy it, pay a certain amount of money and then redo the whole thing. Either way, that would be a huge victory. So, we'll see what happens. And if nothing comes of that, then we go back to the drawing board and decide, do we want to raise more money to shoot more episodes, which I think we do. If we could get a full season done, so let's say we shot 5 more episodes and we had a total of 6, we could package that as a complete series and then maybe have
and then that becomes a different shopping.
Right.
Yeah, because then we're looking more for distributors instead of someone to, take it on. But and we've already looked at how we can possibly just do a little more in Italy and then cheat and get back to the States and cheat some stuff potentially. So that's sort of where we're taking, just so you know, for episode 2, we might be going into prison.
Right.
Oh.
Because, somebody gets up by the cops. So
right. The director is arrested in the pilot. So, our idea, which I think this character would totally do. The director's in prison in Italy, and of course he's going to create and direct a musical with the prisoners while he's in jail. So, and that could be a whole episode that we could shoot anywhere.
Right? Yeah. But we're trying to set up with the show. There's a magical element to it. With Vera's fantasy life that we get to see inside her head and play. And so we can take these diversions. We've established that in the pilot, and that's what we wanted to do, to give us the freedom to play with that.
That was actually going to be my next question. Was like, I'm curious if you have already written like the rest of the season or the next episodes, and in the scenario where like Netflix or Amazon or somebody's like shopping it, do you present them with like a show Bible or anything like that?
We do have a show Bible and a pitch deck, and they have all that. I've been told it doesn't make a lot of sense to write more episodes until you need to.
Yeah.
So, we don't know if they wanted to pick it up, what that would look like. And so I wrote one that might be like episode 4 or episode 6 or something, just because I got excited one day. And so I had the idea of shooting here on the Washington coast in Aberdeen or Grayland, Washington, with the idea that the cast and crew of the show within the show is trying to fake that it's Aberdeen, Scotland. They're trying to pull this off because they run out of money, but things keep going wrong. So, I mean, because you could, if you did it just right, you could pull that off, or you could go to Leavenworth and pretend you're in Germany.
Yeah.
If you shot it just right, you could do that.
Yeah.
But of course, in the show, things are going to keep happening that let you know this is America. You're not really in Scotland. You can't fool us. And anyway, so
that would be fun though. Yeah. Leavenworth, I think would be such a fun filming location for sure.
Yeah.
I have a script set in Austria, and I was wondering, I don't know, I could change it to Leavenworth or something.
That could work.
I was also wondering if each of you could share your background. Like, did you go to film school, acting school? You know, I guess that would be in film school, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, I went to a very prestigious graduate school at Oklahoma State University in the theater program. It's not prestigious, but originally I studied psychology, and then I sort of veered off because I always wanted to study theater. So then I decided to go to graduate school in theater, and I am from Oklahoma, so that's where I was. I got a lot of experience doing theater, and then I moved to Seattle and started doing theater and I really am coming at this for 30 years as an actor. That's more my approach. And then about 10 years ago, directed a lot of plays, and then started writing and directing, getting behind the camera. So that's been sort of my progression.
Yeah, and I was a psychology major in college. That time
it was a thing in the 90s.
Yeah. Wasn't really interested or looking at getting into film at that point, but psychology has turned out to be super helpful when you're creating characters, getting into people's heads, learning how humans behave and interact and all that, which I've always been fascinated with. I've always been a writer. I've done a lot of writing since I was a kid, and so that's always been there. And then when my first husband and I moved to LA in 1995, and he went to film school at USC. He got his master's there, and because I was helping him with every single little aspect of everything he did, I feel like I got my own vicarious film school education without having to pay all that money, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
And then when we split, he stayed in LA. He's still in LA, and I moved back here. And then I went to the film school workshop here in Seattle, which was a 6-week intensive writing program. Tom Skerritt and Stuart Stern, John Jacobson, Warren Etheridge, and Rick Stevenson taught at that time. And that was super valuable and helpful to me. And I met a lot of people that I've continued to work with on different projects. And then, just started getting serious about it and trying to get onto sets and learn what I could. And
that's really key. I think you don't have to necessarily go to USC. I mean, that's great, and you'll meet people, and it's a great opportunity, but I think that you can approach it from a lot of different angles. And I teach at Shoreline Community College too, in the film and theater department, and our students get a ton of hands-on experience, and they take editing and screenwriting and acting and production, and they just get a lot of experience, and they build their community, which is key. You guys were asking about, like, how do you get started when you want to do a project? And part of it is about building community and finding people that you want to work with by working on different projects. And then you start bringing those people on board. And that's.
Yeah. And I think, go to events and network with people and meet people, and don't be like, I've asked some super high level people here in Seattle, can I buy you coffee one day? Can I go to lunch? Like, Lacey Levitt and people that are like the best of the
Megan
best.
Griffiths and
And say, can I sit down with you and just talk? And most of them are pretty open to that if you ask them. Pay for their beverage. No, this is important because I've had people do this. This is an important lesson. If you're going to set up a coffee meeting with somebody, especially somebody that's, higher level than you pay the bill and you go where it's convenient for them. Don't say, can you come to West Seattle? And no, ask them where they like to go, and then you go there.
Good advice. No, I
agree. Good advice.
Well, it's also not about like sitting down and going, okay, I have a script. Will you read it? I mean, it's not about that. It really is about just getting to know people and finding out what their journey's been. Like kind of the same question you're asking us. Then you get a better understanding. And then, if they like you, then they'll say, well, what are you working on? And you're like, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's,
and yes, and every, I kind of in the back of my mind remind myself about, every interaction is important. Every time you sit down with someone, if you're lucky enough to sit down with someone, they're evaluating, first of all, are you sane? Are you a nice person? Are you someone that could, be helpful to them? Are you someone they want to work with? And after, I didn't know her. After sitting down and having coffee with Lacey Levitt, at the end of that conversation, she said to me, I'm working on one of Lynn Shelton's movies. We need an intern in the office. Do you want to come in? And I was like, yes, I do. And, I got a credit on a Lynn Shelton movie from that coffee conversation.
Which
so
film
you never
was it
know.
again?
What's that?
Which film were you an intern on?
That was Touchy Feely.
Okay, yeah. On the island, right? Was that on, where was that filmed?
No, your sister's sister was.
Oh, that's your sister's sister. Yeah. Never mind.
Touchy Feely was shot here in Seattle.
Yeah. I saw that one too. There's a dentist, I think, in it.
Yes.
Yes. A dentist or an architect. Yeah.
Yeah. So, be nice to people, be yourself. Yeah. Don't try to sell anyone anything. Just get to know them. And I think that's true. When you go to film festivals, meet people, talk to people, take advantage of those opportunities, the parties and the different sessions. And that's how, a lot of the people that worked on this came to the project, people that we had met at different festivals, different times. You never know down the road who you might want to work with.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Yeah, we've talked about that a lot. Authentic networking versus the thirsty screenwriting energy that all of us have. That's hard to subdue. We're like, read it.
Yeah.
So
it is.
Yeah, I was thinking about when you both were talking about how you met through the film collective, and it was making me think about the different approaches for as a director, right? I think we interviewed our first director, Christine Luby, right, a few episodes ago.
Yeah, a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, and it was really nice to hear her perspective, because Aviva and I are both screenwriters, and I would say most of our audience are screenwriters. But it is interesting to sort of think about how, Heather, with you were I wrote this story, I have this idea, but then I love that, Debra, you were like, oh, I'm interested in that idea. I don't know much about it, but I love the title, love the brief concept. And so I think there's something there, right, about just either knowing when you're trying to network, knowing what that person might be interested in, or watching their material, understanding if you're the same genre, or
that's the big thing, is finding those people that want to champion your work. Because the thing about directing, and I think too as writers or producers, is you have to nobody else is going to finish this thing.
Yeah.
The actors aren't going to finish it. Whatever. You have to, if you want to produce something, you're there from the very beginning till it's pushed out into the world and in front of an audience. That's your job. And so, and then as a director, it's the same thing. It just has to be tunnel vision of, I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
We worked on it for 8 months leading up to getting there? Easily. Yeah. Meeting every week, rewrites, locations, casting, costumes, we were doing everything to get it all ready to get out the door, to get to Italy. And then we do it. And that's its own whole experience, wonderful, but stressful and exhausting and crazy. And then you get home and you're like, now we got to edit. Get an edit, get a composer, do more sound. Then you got this third part. So I think it's more than people think. Oh, I'm going to get on set. Everybody, when you're a director, I just want to get behind the camera. It's so cool. And you're like, it is. I love it. And I wish I could get up every morning and do it. That would be the best thing ever. But
but then, and then what? And that's the thing. I think being a producer is one of the most challenging roles you can take on for lots of different reasons. And this project, I put a lot of my own money and resources into it, which I have zero regrets about. I don't mind being in credit card debt for a while, because we made this amazing thing. I've explained that to my family many times. I know you don't understand, but believe me, I'm going to spend this money and you'll see why. And then they watch it and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
If you would just trust me. Anyway, so there's that. But then, yeah, like we shot this in 2023. So it was 2 years ago, almost exactly. It's April 18th, almost exactly. We were there.
You were there.
And then several months to edit, and then a whole year going to festivals. We premiered in June of 2024, and we just had our last festival a couple weeks ago. So all of that, like you're doing all of that. For me, it's submitting to all the festivals, paying the submission fees to all the festivals, figuring out who's going to go to the festivals, paying for all of, flights and hotels. Like it's a whole, you got to, in your budget, make sure it doesn't just stop at making the thing. You got a whole other mountain to climb after that that you should ideally have money for. So there's a lot more to it, I think, than most people realize. But we love it. We're crazy, but we love it. So we're gonna keep doing it.
That's really, really cool. Yeah. I think as writers, and like Isabel and I are like trying to transition, I think, to the idea of like not just waiting for someone to like buy our work and be more proactive. Like we haven't really taken the leap yet, but like I feel like that's both on our radar for sure. Like Heather, when you wrote the script, did you know you were going to make it, or were you hoping someone would pick it up and then you were like, you know what, I'm just going to do this?
Yeah, I think when I got to the point of actually writing it, I think I was pretty prepared that I wanted to produce it. I knew I have never really been a director. I don't know if that's something I might try down the road, but I knew I wanted to produce it. So I knew I wanted to make it and have, control over who directs it, hiring the cast and crew, all of that. So yeah, I think at the point where I actually got the script done, I was like, okay, I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah. And I would say an experience that I had, maybe this will resonate for a lot of your younger writers on your show. I wasn't a younger writer, but I was a younger actor. And I would get on sets for some of these like indie films and stuff with these dudes who wrote it and they're directing it, they're starring in it because they think they're Bobby, or Bobby, what's the guy that wrote Sling Blade? Billy Bob Thornton. They think they're Billy Bob Thornton. Yeah. Do it all. They're Clint Eastwood, And I was working on this guy's film, and literally I'm on the set with him in this location. I'm playing his girlfriend that breaks up with him, and he wrote it. I hope he's not listening to this. Anyway, he just staring at me. He's like, "So what should we do?" Like, because he's directing it too, and he's acting in. I'm like, and I start looking around, I had done theater. So I'm like, well, at least I know how to move. I know, I don't know where to put the camera, but I have a sense. So I literally started just doing, I'm like, well, why don't you start there and we could start the scene here. And if I go over there, and he's like, okay, that's good. I'm like, oh, and then I look and there's a door with like cool windows in it. And I'm like, why don't you shoot through that? What if I walk toward that? Anyway, so when it ended, I got home and I told my husband, like, well, I did this film. Who knows what's going to happen? But I was like, interesting happened. I felt like I was kind of directing myself. And he was like, well, you should direct. And I was like, oh, I can't direct films. I don't know how to do that. I didn't go to film school. And I did know how. Right? I kind of did. I didn't know how to work the camera, but that's not my job. That's the DP's job. I didn't know what lights to put up, but that's not my job. That's the gaffer's job. It's my job to communicate the vision. So even if if you're a writer, you understand story and stuff. And so I think I would say take a class, maybe take a directing class, maybe take an acting and directing class or something, and then just freaking shoot it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shoot a couple scenes, make it a small thing or whatever. You'll learn. That's the only way to learn it. You just have to do it and get people with some experience on your team. It's all about building a team.
Yeah.
Get the smarty britches on there for you and you're golden.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
I love how all your acting, is kind of preparing you for what was to
But
come. And
don't wait for everything to be perfect. Be like a dude. Be like, yeah, I can do this.
yeah.
False sense of, security.
Yeah.
And just do it,
Yeah, it is. A
Something I
lot of
think
it,
we can learn from guys. This dumb
right.
be sometimes.
Well,
No
a
offense,
lot of
guys.
it
Listen
is.
to your show. I love you. Love, man. But
A lot of it is about confidence, definitely about relationships, and but yeah, guys go into. It's true, they go into so many things because they operate differently in the world. It's still true, I think.
Yeah.
We're things are getting better, but yeah, they'll approach something with the ultimate confidence, and we're not really taught to do that. We're learning how to do that, but this was a great project because we very intentionally we had a woman writer, women producers, woman director, woman lead, and the whole core team was women, and that's the first time I've been on a project where that's been the case, and everything was so much easier because there's not the ego in the way, but all of the skills are there. People listen to you. If you have a problem, you don't feel, intimidated, or like all these things that just were not part of the equation. And I love men too. I worked with a ton of men. I've worked with great men.
Me too.
And it's not like men are bad or that we're not wanting to work with them, but we're trying to look for opportunities to elevate what women are doing and give more women the chance to be in these lead positions. And it was great. Like, I mean, really, it was, one of the best experiences making something that I've had. So,
yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I was thinking, we've all been involved in the Seattle film scene, and I interned and worked on some films, like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, and two of those films it was very female centered crew, which was really cool. Like, Megan Griffiths and Lynn Shelton, and so many of the producers, like most of them were female. And so it was cool that was kind of my exposure to film, or at first just seeing.
But that was normal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was not normal when I was first auditioning for things in the 90s. I would get on a set and it'd be all dudes. As a matter of fact, Megan Griffiths was the DP on one of the first films that I did. And I remember thinking, is she in wardrobe? And it was so sexist of me. Like, oh, I'm such an right. Yeah. And I told her that too. I was like, I thought you were like hair and makeup. She was like, me? And I'm like, anyway.
Yeah.
So it's important. And I just want to encourage you to not, if you have those instincts, go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, so true. I feel like we talk about this on our podcast a lot too, because we are very much highlighting women working in film. And I think something too that, like, I don't know, at least my experience working in the industry has been with a lot more male producers. And I think for me, something I learned was like, when I have them read a script and then I go and have a woman read a script, or even just like a person of color, like as I'm a biracial person, I was like, oh man, yeah, there is a big difference from like perspective.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So true. So true. I often wonder, haven't entered as many contests, but when I have entered screenwriting contests, you never know who's the one rating it. Maybe it's mostly men, potentially, and all my scripts are really girly. So for the most part,
and I've been a reader on screenplay content.
Yeah,
like I don't like science fiction, so when I get those scripts, I have to like take a deep breath and go, just drop into this world, be fair, So, and not everybody does that.
Yeah,
sure.
It's tough. It's tough if it's just not your preference too,
right.
Like,
is
there anything else you wanted to quickly mention or have us ask you about the project before we transition?
No, other than like, I would do any project with Heather ever, because she's like, she put a lot of faith in me. I had only directed 3 or 4 short films. So it's not like I could say, well, sure, I'll do another pilot, So she put a lot of faith in me, and we hadn't worked directly together. So, I think it's just about going with your gut and having a producer that's really like steers the ship. You have to, it's like, this is the ship, it's going, we're going. Right. And you're like, okay, I'll go with you. And and that's been really great. Yeah. I hope we get to make more.
I do too. I do too. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now preparing for rapid fire questions.
Okay, so what is your favorite rom-com and why?
Okay, I thought about this, and I have to go with Love Actually. Now, this is the only movie that I watch every year. I've watched it more than any other movie in my life. Literally every Christmas, around Christmas, we watch it. And I think it's brilliant for several reasons. Number one, it's got a great cast. Number two, the writing is great. But mostly, number three, it's constructed in such a brilliant way. I think the way that movie is edited, where the characters and the relationships interconnect, people are related to people, and like just the way that it's put together, I think is so awesome. And I just love it. It's a movie. It's very rare for me to watch anything more than once. The only other, and this is, I guess you wouldn't call it a romantic comedy, but it's definitely a romance. The only other movie I've watched a bunch of times is Call Me by Your Name. It's a love story for sure. But yeah, Love Actually is for me.
Great one.
Is there a favorite storyline in Love Actually for you?
That's hard. You know, the one that I just wish, like, if you could see what happened to the people after the movie ends, is Laura Linney's character and the beautiful man she falls in love with at her work.
Carl, yeah.
Carl.
And she has the mentally ill brother, and that romance never really takes off. And I just like to hope that eventually they figure it out.
Yeah. I'd love to see that too.
You guys can't judge me. I have never seen Love Actually.
This might be have to be the year.
Yeah, you guys watch it together.
Yeah, come on.
I know. When I first thought of this question, I know this is crazy, and I think it's because there's a remake of this coming out. But one of my favorite, it's not really a rom-com, is The War of the Roses. It's like the anti-rom-com. There's another version of it. It's not a rom-com. It's actually about a marriage that completely disintegrates. So they but in the funniest physical comedy sort of way. But my most traditional one is When Harry Met Sally, just because I just believe in friendships and friends marrying your friend. But then my one that affects me the most is Sense and Sensibility, the Emma Thompson invitation. That one just, I know I was just watching the proposal clip again this morning since you guys asked me this. I was like, I was not very well read as a young person, so I had never even read Sense and Sensibility, seen any versions of it. So when I saw that movie, I was like, I had no idea how it was going to end, and I was completely won over.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
those were all great choices. Okay, do you guys have a favorite trope to write?
I just write comedies. I don't write romantic comedies because I've been married for too long. And so nothing's romantic to me. No, they are. But it's not my thing. But Heather, you do you.
I mean, this is funny because this is something Debra and I argued about a little bit with our pilot. I'm a huge fan of a movie or a series that makes you wait and wait and wait and wait for the two people that you know are in love with each other to actually kiss. Like, for example, Suits, 10 seasons, isn't it? Like, you wait till the very last season for Harvey and Donna. 10 seasons. And in the pilot, I wanted them to like almost kiss, but not. Like they're about to, and then they get interrupted. And I was going to make them wait for multiple episodes. Debra, when they shot it, it's like, it's this beautiful sunset.
It was such a gorgeous setting. I shot both. I shot the no kiss and I shot the kiss because I was like, look at the sun and this kiss.
And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it now. When I first saw it, I was like, no, that's not what I want. That's not what I wrote. I don't want them to kiss. And I'm okay with it now. But I like the slow burn, man. Make them wait. Yeah. Make them wait a long time.
The tension.
Yeah.
That's good.
Tension's good.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite rom-com outfits?
Legally Blonde, anything she wore in Legally Blonde, the Jackie O knockoff, all the pink. So I just am so there.
I was thinking about this too. And I think for me, It's when the first time Julia Roberts gets like really decked out, like the rich woman outfit with the hat. Yeah. And she walks back into that shop in Beverly Hills where they were so horrible to her. And she's like, do you remember me? And they're like, no. And she's like, well, I was in here yesterday and you wouldn't take my money. And that's too bad because she got an armful of bags because you missed out. That was a big mistake.
Yeah.
I just love that. Yep. And just like, and it's so true. People will treat you very differently depending on how you're dressed. Mm-hmm. And I like that.
Yeah. I wanted to add really quickly, just shout out that Debra was in a movie with Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, that's true.
So they have a scene together.
That's true. I did. I had to tell her she smelled bad, which is like, who tells Reese Witherspoon she smells bad? I do.
Wild.
Yeah. She's so pretty and so sweet. And
what was the movie?
Wild. So at the end, she goes into a department store and she's all smelly and stinky and she's trying on lipsticks, and I'm the makeup person who like basically.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Okay, I remember that scene.
Yeah. And so we were in the trailer that morning, and I was getting into makeup and stuff, and she came in. They were just kind of like just grunge, but I mean like with no makeup, porcelain skin. Beautiful. I'm like, so you guys are going to work to ugly her. Like, that's what you have to do. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah.
Just had to mention
that. Okay. Do you have a favorite line or moment from a rom-com?
Yes. From When Harry Met Sally. I mean, I came here tonight because when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible. That's just, classic. Come on. Love it's romantic, but also like, you would say that. And then I also love this little line in Sense and Sensibility where Marianne says, can the soul really be satisfied with such polite affections? To love is to burn, to be on fire like Juliet or Guinevere or Eloise. And Mrs. Dashwood says, they made rather pathetic ends, dear. And so I love that sort of witty banter, and, just kind of squashing the romance out of a situation. So
yeah. I think for me, the one that popped into my head when I read the question was in Love Actually, where Colin Firth's character and the woman that he meets and has fallen in love with, who's from Portugal, who was working as a waitress, he goes into the restaurant. Totally spur of the moment, decides to take a flight to Portugal and goes to find her. And she's standing up on this, railing, looking down at him. And he has learned Portuguese and she has learned English. And she says, I learned English just in cases. And we say that to each other all the time, just as a joke. Like, I'm going to take the garbage out just in cases.
I love that storyline. I think that is so lovely.
All right, I'll watch it this year.
You know it. Come over and watch it. Just come to my house.
Well, I'm going to watch this New Roses that comes out because I want to watch that.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
I feel like Heather should give an ultimatum to Debra that you won't work with her again until she watches Love Actually.
This is the year.
I love that. Do you have any rom-coms that you maybe seen recently or just generally recommend?
I have not.
There aren't that many.
I'm watching a lot of dark stuff from the 70s, like Midnight Cowboy, not a rom-com. Yeah, I've been kind of diving into that era. So
yeah, there's so much really good, really dark stuff. I watch a ton of that also. I just want to give, this is off topic, but I really want to give a shout out to Adolescence because holy crap, just it's so amazing in every way. I think everyone should watch it. But rom-com, I was thinking about series. I watch a lot of series because just episodic stuff is, I think, really good research for what we're doing. And so Nobody Wants This, I thought was fabulous series, which I think would be considered a rom-com. Yes. And also, now I can't remember the title, so never mind.
I mean, in an super old-fashioned way, you could even go all the way back to the silent era. And I teach film history, and Charlie Chaplin's The Gold Rush.
Yes.
It's it is a love story. I mean, he spends a lot of the film trying to get closer to Georgia, and it's not until the very end, that she actually, kind of becomes a little bit of a gold digger. But I think she always kind of anyway, so I think that can be a fun, different kind of, romantic.
Yeah, I saw that one they have silent movie nights at the Paramount Theater.
Yeah.
And I went with my family and my boyfriend, and I didn't think I was going to like it. And it was so good.
So sweet. It's a comedy that also has such heart,
Yeah. And there's a live orchestra. So if anyone's ever in Seattle, go to the Paramount Theater. They have 4 silent films a year. It's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you had a magic wand or just a ton of money, is there a project that you would want to make, or that you would want to something that you would love to see happen someday besides your pilot, of course?
Yes.
I can't use that as the answer.
5 more episodes of Abroad.
Yeah, that works.
That we would want to make. I wrote a feature script recently, and I'm working on another one, and I'd love to be involved with the making of both of those. One is a super weird psychological thriller called I Saved Your Skin, about a woman who's a taxidermist.
Whoa.
Here in Seattle.
Yeah, you are really good at the titles.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The other one that we're working on right now is a feature called The Road to Plan C. And it's a comedy, but it's about a young woman, a college student in Idaho, who has unprotected sex and is now very worried about maybe being pregnant. And it's a road trip movie about trying to getting out of Plan B pill and how hard that has become. And so that's what we're working on now.
Yeah.
Cool.
I would just I just finished a feature screenplay called No Demerits for Dancing that's way too expensive. So if money wasn't an object, I would direct that, and I would get Leslie Jones to come play Jesus in my movie. And I would have, a $20 million budget and do that. So yeah, I would do that.
I love it. Yeah. That's amazing.
That sounds awesome.
Yep. Yeah. So to wrap it up, where can we learn more about the project and, potentially see it abroad? And where can we find you online?
You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on Facebook. Support is helpful. Getting visibility out there is always helpful. So I recommend that. And then we'll definitely be keeping people updated about what's happening with it. If we don't sell it, we'll probably just make more ourselves, and then we'll start putting stuff out there.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm doing I'm on Debra Pralle at Instagram and Facebook, and my website is openwindowentertainment.com. So if you want to pop over and see some stuff I've done there. And then, but actually next weekend I'm directing a murder mystery comedy short up on Whidbey Island. Yay. So so we're going to do that next weekend. And then I have producing another short film this summer called Balloon Boy and Helicopter Dad. That's kind of a surreal little comedy. And then I have a TV show pilot called Blue Oasis that I'm planning to shoot early September. So
awesome.
That's the plan. Really We're mostly funded. So
that's exciting.
We'll see. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming and chatting on our podcast today. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. You're our second duo that's come on.
Yeah, it's fun having this many people.
Well, we're used to it. We've been able to do a couple of these together where we get to just talk. It's really fun. Yeah. And thank you for really getting my brain back into the romantic comedy lane. Yeah,
of course.
Balance out the dark stuff.
I was definitely down a path for some reason. I don't know if it was just the whole political scene right now. I don't know what's going on, if I just wanted to go darker, but so this has been nice to revisit. Thank you. And hopefully, Aviva, you and I will get to do something together this year.
I would love to. I want Debra to direct something of mine. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Talk to you all soon.
Thank you. Bye.
This has been an episode of When Isabel Met Aviva. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to stay up to date with our episodes, please subscribe. Bonus points if you leave us a positive review. You can follow us on Instagram at whenisabelmetaviva and on Bluesky at whenisabelmetaviva.
You can also find our personal profiles on Instagram and Bluesky too. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or need any advice about your screenwriting career, or if you just want to obsess over rom-coms with us.
And don't forget to watch and write as many rom-coms as possible.